Indeed. Well, let's take a moment now to hear from the Congress of South African Trade Unions, COSATU, a big member, of course, of the alliance with the ANC. Their General Secretary is Bheki Ntshalintshali. He's with me now. Mr. Ntshalintshali, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon, and good afternoon to your viewers at home.
So you've been watching the conference. You've been in the hall watching the conference. Most of us have been watching it from outside. Do you believe that this conference is going to strengthen the ANC and the alliance?
It depends on what the ANC do from now moving forward. The message is quite clear from a number of people, I would say the majority, that they see the danger of the ANC losing power. They understand that semantics have to be put aside, and whatever future they need to hold, they need to change.
What people, I think, have been looking for, and literally every single person who sat in the chair that you're sitting in now put the same question to them. People are angry, people are frustrated. Your members are angry and frustrated because their lives have changed so much over the last few years and before then. And people are looking for hope from the ANC. If there's no hope from the ANC, I don't think it wins in 2024. Do you think this conference brings that hope?
I think it brings the essence, the agency, and the space of need to change. Our people does not just believe in good resolution, because all the time when the ANC comes to the conference, they came up with good resolutions. What was expected, getting either from media and all those things, that people were going to push for the step aside to be scrapped. I think there was a sense of understanding that you can't push for that. If you do, you lose the trust of the people. So it gave that sense, taking all together, that people understood that you can be populist here, get all the kind of resolution, but the society is tired to get to the infighting of the ANC. They want an ANC that will promise them a better life. And I think at the end of the conference, that message seems to be settling down to many of the delegates.
It's a really important issue, the step-aside resolution, because it gets to the ANC's big point, which is fighting corruption. That's been a big weakness, if I may say, of the ANC for many years, I think. Do you think that the message is getting home to the ANC that it's in real danger of losing an election? Do you think that it actually now, delegates actually understand that? Because if that is the case, this is now a much more accountable democracy, perhaps, than it was during the very difficult days of, say, 2017.
I think it does, from the national leadership, because I think they were in uniform. The messages was clear, some kind of behavior that is anti-ANC was cut short in this meeting. I mean, on the first day, it started with a little bit of not seriousness, but the leadership stood firm and said, we're not here to play. If you want to be part of this movement, you have to behave in a particular way. I think also the ANC realized that if they don't change, I think they will kiss the question of political power goodbye. So I think it's a serious matter, and everybody seems to understood that one, which makes us happy that at least we can speak to the ANC that seems to say this. Of course, things changes. We may have a good message today, and then tomorrow we may see something different.
There's always a conversation, it's been going on as long as I've been politically aware, around reconfiguring the alliance and sort of making sure that it functions effectively. Is the alliance functioning effectively at the moment? If you consider the disputes that you have with the ANC and government over wages for public sector workers, for example, the real frustration I think you and others have shown over the fact that ANC workers have not been paid properly until I think it was Thursday or Friday that they received their salaries. Is the alliance actually functioning in the way that you would like it to?
Well, it does not, but at the same time we must separate that our alliance with the ANC is not to negotiate wages. We don't want the ANC to be a trade unions or to be the spokesperson of workers. We want workers to fight. They needed to fight all the time. But we are correct that some of the policies of the ANC, from the resolution and from what government sometimes does, there is not gelling in terms of those particular issues. An organization like the ANC, which is a defense of workers' rights, collective bargaining, if it cannot defend its own employees, just not about even COSATU or somebody employing government, employing the ANC, clearly demonstrate that there is something missing within the ANC. They have to put these workers, their own members, very, very high in terms of their priorities. They are not doing that one. And there's no good explanation as to why, after 28 years, they can have workers here, and when government officials and those that in power seems not to take that thing seriously. Look, you heard the ANC spokesperson making a joke about a question of workers and says ANC is not a robbery, cannot a heist, and all the unnecessary utterance, really, really undermining the workers' right.
I think key to everything, comes down to the economy, jobs, and then sort of related to that with electricity. Conference endorsing government's plans around electricity, as announced by the President. How strong is your support for these plans? I mean, we are going to see a bigger role for independent power producers, so a bigger role for the private sector. That may create jobs. There's going to be a lot of investment here. It may be an opportunity for people in some of the unions that belong to you to get more members. But it also means that almost by stealth, there's a sort of creeping privatization where there never was before.
That's why our call, and which we appreciate, is the state involved in renewable energy. What we're trying to push from our side is that renewable energy might be the future. Of course, it will take some time, but if the state does not enter that space, it may mean electricity is going to be very expensive. In fact, the production of energy through the IPPs is very, very high, is that Eskom is subsidizing. But we must balance with the frustration of our people and be able to talk the language they want. It seems the majority of our people want electricity. They don't care where the electricity is coming from. They want to see electricity. They hope electricity supply will create some jobs. So they have to be balanced between the policies and the problems of understanding what privatization means, which is our responsibility to explain that if you allow it to go to the private hands, what are the long-term implications in dealing with those things? And the details of what the president has promised, we don't understand it as yet. We hope to meet when the president to unbundle what it means in terms of the pronouncement that he has made.
It's not entirely clear. There could be implications you're not aware of, you mean?
Of course, there may be when they're talking about unbundling. It's not clear to us as to what it means and what the role the private sector will do in the unbundling of Eskom.
Within all of that, I mean, Bheki Ntshalintshali, the chair of the ANC, Minister of Energy, was sitting in that chair a moment ago. And he's still very much supporting, we call it a second Eskom, a second SOE to generate electricity. I mean, I think a lot of people look at that and go, really? I mean, the first one hasn't done very well, or did well for a while, but hasn't been doing well for the last 20 years. Do you think that a new SOE is the right course?
I think the big question that is being asked about SOEs in general, we know some of these OSCs, even under apartheid regime, they did a wonderful work. You mentioned Sasol, you mentioned Denel, you mentioned Exco and all those things. So it is not the SOEs per se that is a problematic. I think it is the leadership, it's the management, it's the skills. And we hope from this conference that those issues are going to be addressed. We can't say Eskom, for an example, is a bad idea, but we can sell it to private hands. It means Eskom as an idea, as an SOE, is a very important company. It can be turned it around, provided you provide leadership and you provide management and the skill necessary.
Bheki Ntshalintshali, thank you very much indeed. General Secretary of the Congress of South African Trade Unions. I really do appreciate the time. Just some of the reaction that we've been having. We'll have more analysis on what's been announced today.